long-awaited return to Crime and Punishment. Had a long break. Gonna put you guys on pause real quick. I'm gonna give everyone a chance to get in here and finish my laundry in the meantime. Kill two birds with one stone. I want to do it before my clothes wrinkle anyhow. Been a minute. I think we're pretty close to the end. Crime and Punishment. Static Shock. I might try some art streams soon. Maybe winter or Christmas themed. Whew, I just had to put some thought into it. Jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle around the clock. Tell me I can remember all the lyrics. It goes like mix and mingle. Move your feet, that's the jingle bell, that's the jingle bell. That's the Jingle Bell Rock. We've only got like 15 days before Christmas, so we're fast advancing to 2022. Taking the laundry challenge. How fast can I put my clothes away? Darn, my Charlie Dog shirt's falling apart. Saying so. God, that's one of my favorite shirts. Should have 3 more streams planned for today. Exercise, health and fitness. I think that one will be more typical of what I've done in the past. Just general stretches and exercises that should be relatively easy to follow. As I often say, you can always modify. I'll wrap up with my mindfulness chapter like I've been doing my sleep story. Before that, we'll have Fallout 76 and SpongeBob. I think SpongeBob will follow this episode. It's going to be very story focused. Fallout 76, because I know otherwise that playthrough is going to drag on. As with most sandboxes, you can spend a lot of time exploring around in them and digging around, seeing what you can find. I don't know, I might try some of the side quests, especially if they're more interesting and cool, but yeah, there are no companions as far as I can tell, and my main focus will be on completing the story as a result. I won't be as focused, in other words, on exploration. Okay, I'm almost there. It's been a while since I've done laundry, so it's gonna take a little bit longer to put my clothes away and do my load. It's gonna take time, of course. I think I'm all caught up on laundry. Day ahead. Alright. It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday. No such luck. Yeah, that's fine. Have another chance tomorrow. Okay. I think I'll just upload this one instead of simultaneously streaming to YouTube. That way, for you all watching on YouTube, you'll be able to actually see the video. I still haven't figured out for some reason how to use my webcam on YouTube Live, and I don't know why that is. Like, it's just a Lenovo camera. I don't know why it hasn't been picking up. I mean, it's been fine because all I've been using YouTube Live for thus far are for these reading series where I think the audio is much more important than the visual, so it doesn't really matter. It's just like an audiobook, basically. But yeah, eventually I think if I'm gonna be like live streaming any video games, for example, or anything like that, yeah, it's gonna be important to get the camera set up. But it should be simple. Come on, Google, come on. You guys are huge. Everything should be streamlined as heck on there. Yeah, anyway, thank you all for watching my Crime and Punishment series. Let's see, we are pretty close to the end, 83% of the way through. And yes, we were part 6, chapter 3. This is a pretty long part, so I think that's the reason why we're only 83. But once we're done with part 6, I think we're going to be pretty close to the end. Okay, Porfiry last time met with Raskolnikov. Porfiry has been able to put it together that Raskolnikov was guilty of the double murder. And it's hard to say what his true motive and aim is. It might just be simple revenge for being responsible for the breakup of he and Dunya. Yeah, it might just be good old-fashioned revenge. But yeah, Raskolnikov definitely did do it. He has not confessed to Porfiry, but I don't think it's gonna matter because I think Petrovich is smart enough to put it together that he actually did do it, even without him confessing. The only person he's actually confessed to thus far is Sonia. Like poor Sonia, like why her? She's been through much as it is, and I don't know why he's, put the burden on her. The burden of his confession on poor Sonia. Alright, but anyway, here we are, chapter 3. He hurried to Sverdlov's. Let's see, who's Sverdlov again? Is that the one who was trying to marry Dunya? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So Sverdlov is the landlord of his mom and Dunya, I believe. And his wife has passed away, and now he's trying to re-up. And he's trying to do that with Raskolnikov's sister. He's given a pretty good amount of money to Dunya, I believe. But is that partly because of strings attached? I don't really know. like what, what's the condition? I'm not sure what he's expecting with that donation. What he had to hope from that man, he did not know. But that man had some hidden power over him. Having once recognized this, he could not rest. Now the time had come. On the way, one question particularly worried him. Had Sverdlov been to Porfiry's? To the best of my knowledge, the two don't actually get along. They're both at some point trying to court Dunya, so that could have something to do with it. But yeah, I don't think they get along, much like Raskolnikov and Petrovich. Or Raskolnikov and anyone for that matter. As far as practically the only person he gets along well with is Razmahin and Sonia. Those are some of the only people he actually gets along with. As far as he could judge, he could swear to it that he had not. He pondered again and again, went over Porfiry's visit. No, he hadn't been. Of course, he hadn't. I mean, I don't know why he would go to see Sverdlov, except to get into an argument with him. But if he had not been yet, would he go? Meanwhile, for the present, he fancied he couldn't. Why? He could not have explained, but if he could, he would not have wasted much thought over it at the moment. It all worried him, and at the same time he could not attend to it. Strange to say, none would have believed it, perhaps, but he only felt a faint, vague anxiety about his immediate future. He thinks that Petrovich is going to go to the cops, I think. And, maybe he will. Maybe Raskolnikov will finally get what's coming to him. We can only predict. Another much more important anxiety tormented him. It concerned himself, but in a different, more vital way. Moreover, he was conscious of immense moral fatigue, though his mind was working better that morning than it had done of late. And was it worthwhile, after all that had happened, to contend with these new trivial difficulties? Was it worthwhile, for instance, to maneuver that Sverdlov should not go to Porfiry's? Again, I don't know why he would. He doesn't have fond feelings of Petrovich, so I don't know why he would go to his house. Was it worthwhile to investigate, to ascertain the facts, to waste time over anyone like Sverdlov? Oh, how sick he was of it all. And yet he was hastening to Sverdlov. Could he be expecting something new from him, information or means of escape? Like, yeah, maybe Sverdlov will be able to use his influence to get Raskolnikov off without, significant jail time or whatever. Men will catch at straws. Was it destiny or some instinct bringing them together? Perhaps it was only fatigue, despair. Perhaps it was not Sverdlov, but some other whom he needed. Sverdlov had simply presented himself by chance. Sonia. But what should he go to Sonia for now? To beg her tears again? Again, what is poor Sonia gonna do? Give you a shoulder to cry on, probably. He was afraid of Sonia too. Sonia stood before him as an irrevocable sentence. He must go his own way or hers. At that moment especially, he did not feel equal to seeing her. Now, would it not be better to try Sverdlov? And he could not help inwardly owning that he had long felt that he must see him for some reason. Yeah, maybe you can call in a favor with Sverdlov. But he's probably gonna, try to get with your sister if you do. So just keep that in mind. And, again, Sonia, I don't know why she would go with Raskolnikov at all. They're like nothing alike, like whatsoever. They're like totally different. He's a double murderer. She's a prostitute, but again, she does things that she does for her family, so she's more noble that way. He does this stuff because he's homicidal, basically. Like, we're like, why would you kill Lizaveta? Like, there's like no reason to it at all. Like, he just did it for the sake of crime. But what could they have in common? My sentiments exactly, Fyodor. Their very evil doing could not be of the same kind. See? And I wouldn't even necessarily call it evil. Like, she's doing what she has to do to support her family. Like, the man, moreover, was very unpleasant, evidently depraved, undoubtedly cunning and deceitful, possibly malignant. Such stories were told about him. Is it true he was befriending Katerina Ivanovna's children? But who could tell what motive and what it meant? With what motive and what it meant? The man always had some design, some project. There was another thought which had been continually hovering of late about Raskolnikov's mind, causing him great uneasiness. It was so painful that he made distinct efforts to get rid of it. He sometimes thought that Sverdlov was dogging his footsteps. Sverdlov had found out his secret and had designs on Dunya. Does Sverdlov really know? I don't know. Maybe he does. I mean, enough time has passed, maybe he's figured it out. What if he had them still? Wasn't it practically certain that he had? What if, having learned his secret and so having gained power over him, he were to use it as a weapon against Dunya? Exactly. Any interaction he has with Sverdlov at this point has to be related back to her. Like she has to be his ulterior motive for any and all interactions. At this point in time, this idea sometimes even tormented his dreams, but it had never presented itself so vividly to him as on his way to Sverdlov. The very thought moved him to gloomy rage. To begin with, this would transform everything, even his own position. He would have at once to confess his secret to Dunya. Would he have to give himself up, perhaps to prevent Dunya from taking some rash step? The letter. This morning Dunya had received a letter. From whom could she get letters in Petersburg? Luzhin, perhaps? It's true Razumhin was there to protect her, but Razumhin knew nothing of the position. Perhaps it was his duty to tell Razumhin. He thought of it with repugnance. In any case, he must see Sverdlov as soon as possible, he decided finally. Thank God, the details of the interview were of little consequence, if only he could get at the root of the matter. But if Sverdlov were capable, if he were intriguing against Dunya, then Raskolnikov was so exhausted by what he had passed through that month that he could only decide such questions in one way. Then I shall kill him, he thought in cold despair. Yeah, why not just add another body to the pile? It's like really, Raskolnikov? Is there nothing else? Is there no other resolution? Sudden anguish depressed his heart. He stood still in the middle of the street and began looking about to see where he was, and which way he was going. He found himself in X, Prospect 30 or 40 paces from the Haymarket, through which he had come. The whole second story of the house on the left was used as a tavern. All the windows were wide open. Judging from the figures moving at the windows, the rooms were full to overflowing. There were sounds of singing, of clarionet and violin, and the boom of a Turkish drum. He could hear women shrieking. Oh yes, that's a good sign. He was about to turn back, wondering why he had come to the X. Prospect, when suddenly at one of the end windows, he saw Sverdlov, sitting at a tea table right in the open window with a pipe in his mouth. Raskolnikov was dreadfully taken aback, almost terrified. Sverdlov was silently watching and scrutinizing him, and what struck Raskolnikov at once seemed to be meaning to get up and slip away unobserved. Raskolnikov at once pretended not to have seen him, but to be looking absent-mindedly away, while he watched him out of the corner of his eye. His heart was beating violently, yet it was evident that Sverdlov did not want to be seen. He took the pipe out of his mouth and was on the point of concealing himself. But as he got up and moved back his chair, he seemed to have become suddenly aware that Raskolnikov had seen him, was watching him. What had passed between them was much the same as what happened at their first meeting in Raskolnikov's room. A sly smile came into Sverdlov's face and grew broader and broader. Each knew that he was seen and watched by the other. At last, Sverdlov broke into a loud laugh. Yeah, Sverdlov is like a good counter, like a good yin to Raskolnikov's yang. Like, he's always in a good mood. He's always positive and happy. Raskolnikov's always like depressed and moody. Well, come in if you want me. I'm here, he shouted from the window. Raskolnikov went up to the tavern. He found Sverdlov in a tiny back room, adjoining the saloon in which merchants, clerks, and numbers of people of all sorts were drinking tea at 20 little tables to the desperate bawling of a chorus of singers. The click of billiard balls could be heard in the distance. On the table before Sverdlov stood an open bottle and a glass half full of champagne. In the room he found also a boy with a little hand organ, a healthy-looking, red-cheeked girl of 18, wearing a tucked-up striped shirt, and a Tyrolese hat with ribbons. In spite of the chorus in the other room, she was singing some servant's hall song, in a rather husky contralto, to the accompaniment of the organ. Come, that's enough. Sverdlov stopped her at Raskolnikov's entrance. The girl at once broke off and stood waiting respectfully. She had sung her guttural rhymes, too, with a serious and respectful expression in her face. Hey, Philip, a glass, shouted Raskolnikov. I won't drink anything, said Raskolnikov. As you like. I didn't mean it for you. Drink, Katya. I don't want anything more today. You can go. He poured her out a full glass and laid down a yellow note. Katya drank off her glass of wine as women do without putting it down, in 20 gulps, took the note and kissed Sverdlov's hand, which he allowed quite seriously. She went out of the room and the boy trailed her with the organ. Both had been brought in from the street. Sverdlov had not been a week in Petersburg, but everything about him was already, so to speak, on a patriarchal footing. The waiter, Philip, was by now an old friend and very obsequious. The door leading to the saloon had a lock on it. Sverdlov was at home in this room and perhaps spent whole days in it. The tavern was dirty and wretched, not even second-rate. I was going to see you and looking for you, Raskolnikov began, but I don't know what made me turn from the Haymarket into the X. Prospect just now. I never take this turning. I turned to the right from the Haymarket, and this isn't the way to you. I simply turned and here you are. It is strange. Why don't you say at once it's a miracle? Because it may be only chance. Yeah, there are no miracles. is no miraculous life. Like, you just walked down the street and you found this guy who's already here. Like, he's already staying in this town. Like, what do you mean miracle? That's the way with all you folk. Last Sverdlov. Again, like, Sverdlov, very optimistic, positive. Sverdlov, very, like, glass half empty. Raskolnikov, very glass half empty. So he kind of balances out Sverdlov. You won't admit it, even if you do inwardly believe it's a miracle. Here you say that it may be only chance. And what cowards they all are here. About having an opinion of their own you can't fancy, Rodion Romanovich. I don't mean you. You have an opinion of your own and are not afraid to have it. That's how it was. You attracted my curiosity. Nothing else? Well, that's enough, you know. Sverdlov was obviously exhilarated, but only slightly so. He had not had more than half a glass of wine. Fancy you came to see me before you knew that I was capable of having what you call an opinion of my own, observed Raskolnikov. Oh well, it was a different matter. Everyone has his own plans. And apropos of the miracle, let me tell you that I think you've been asleep for the last 2 or 3 days. I told you this of this tavern myself. There's no miracle in your coming straight here. I explained the way myself, told you there where it was, and the hours you could find me here. Do you remember? Again, like who said miracle? I think it was Sverdlov. Like what do you mean miracle? Like you were already here and you told him you would be here. Like how is it a miracle? I don't know. I don't remember, answered Raskolnikov with surprise. I believe you. I told you twice. The address has been stamped mechanically on your memory. You turn this way mechanically and yet precisely according to that direction, though you're not aware of it. When I told you then, I hardly hoped you understood me. You give yourself away too much, Rodion Romanovich. And another thing, I'm convinced there are lots of people in Petersburg who talk to themselves as they walk. This is a town of crazy people. Yeah, talking to yourself is not a sign always of lunacy, too. Based on research and psychological studies, data, some people who talk to themselves are incredibly intelligent. It's a way of organizing your thoughts. Like, even this could be seen as me talking to myself, me doing this stream, because the people on the other end of the screen aren't talking back to me. At least not the way that I am. Like, they're communicating through chat, that they're typing online. But, you know, it's like, yeah, I would say it's, for some people, a way of organizing thoughts, and it's also a skill, like when you see it from a streaming perspective and standpoint. It's like being able to monologue, create ideas and discourse on a topic without any input can be representative and indicative of improbability. But yeah, Sverdlov is just wrong. I mean, and on that note, it's like, if someone is clearly talking to someone who's not there, that could be a sign of, like, schizophrenia or something like that, like the person's hallucinating or something. But, like, I think if someone's talking to themselves, you should listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, the way the speech is organized, before you jump to any rash conclusions, because, like, there could be something else. There could be other explanations for that. only we had scientific men, doctors, lawyers, and philosophers might make most valuable investigations in Petersburg, each in his own line. There are few places where there are so many gloomy, strong, and queer influences on the soul of man as in Petersburg. The mere influences of climate mean so much. Yeah, Petersburg is friggin' cold, so that could have something to do with it. Like, I think some places that are cold and or rainy can affect the mood somewhat. But it's like a lot like chicken and egg scenario. It's like, do moody and depressed people move there? Like, were they already there, or or did the weather make them that way? I think they already were that way, and they just so happened to be there at that time. And it's the administrative center of all Russia, and its character must be reflected on the whole country. But that is neither here nor there now. The point is that I have several times watched you. You walk out of your house, holding your head high. 20 paces from your home, you let it sink. Hold your hands behind your back. You look and evidently see nothing before nor beside you. At last you begin moving your lips and talking to yourself, and sometimes you wave one hand and declaim. At last, stand still in the middle of the road. That's not at all the thing. Someone may be watching you beside me, and it won't do you any good. It's nothing really to do with me, and I can't cure you, but of course you understand me. Do you know that I'm being followed? Asked Raskolnikov, looking inquisitively at him. No, I know nothing about it, said Sverdlov, seeming surprised. Well, then, let us leave me alone, Raskolnikov muttered, frowning. Very good, let us leave you alone. And yeah, he might be wandering the streets talking to himself, but you're the dude who's like sitting in the shadows watching him. So who's the real creep here? Sverdlov, like, probably you, since you're, chilling in the shadows, watching him. Or wherever you are, you're hanging out in your bar, just watching everything happen. You better tell me. If you come here to drink and directed me twice to come here to you, why did you hide? Tried to get away just now when I looked at the window from the street. I saw it. Why was it you lay on your sofa with closed eyes and pretended to be asleep, though you were wide awake while I stood in your doorway? I saw it. I may have had reasons. You know that yourself. And I may have had my reasons, though you don't know them. Raskolnikov dropped his right elbow on the table, leaning his chin on the fingers of his right hand, stared intently at Sverdlov. For a full minute he scrutinized his face, which had impressed him before. It was a strange face, like a mask, white and red, with bright red lips, with a flaxen beard, still thick flaxen hair. His eyes were somehow too blue, and their expression somehow too heavy and fixed. There was something awfully unpleasant in that handsome face, which looked so wonderfully young, for his age. Sverdlov was smartly dressed in light summer clothes, and was particularly dainty in his linen. He wore a huge ring with a precious stone in it. Have I got to bother myself about you too now? Said Raskolnikov suddenly, coming with nervous impatience straight to the point. Even though perhaps you're the most dangerous man, if you care to injure me, I don't want to put myself out anymore. I'll show you at once that I don't prize myself as you probably think I do. I'm going to tell you at once that if you keep to your former intentions with regard to my sister, if you think to derive any benefit in that direction from what has been discovered of late, I will kill you before you get me locked up. You can reckon on my word. You know that I can keep it. And in the second place, if you want to tell me anything, for I keep fancying all this time that you have something to tell me, make haste and tell it. For time is precious, and very likely it will soon be too late. Why in such haste? Asked Sverdlov, looking at him curiously. Everyone has his plans, Raskolnikov answered gloomily and impatiently. You urged me yourself to frankness just now, and at the first question you refused to answer, Sverdlov observed with a smile. Keep fancying that I have aims of my own, and so you look at me with suspicion. Of course it's perfectly natural in your position, but though I should like to be friends with you, I shan't trouble myself to convince you of the contrary. The game isn't worth the candle, and I wasn't intending to talk to you about anything special. What did you want me for, then? It was you who came hanging about me. Why, simply as an interesting subject for observation. I liked the fantastic nature of your position. That's what it was. Besides, you are a brother of a person who greatly interested me. From that person I had in the past heard a very great deal about you, from which I gather that you had a great influence over her. Isn't that enough? Ha ha ha. Again, he wants to get with your sister, dude. Still, I must admit that your question is rather complex, and is difficult for me to answer. Here you, for instance, have come to me not only for a definite object, but for the sake of hearing something new. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? Persisted Sverdlov with a sly smile. Can't you fancy then that I, too, on my way here in the train, was reckoning on you, on your telling me something new, and on my making some profit out of you? You see what rich men we are. What profit could you make? How can I tell you? How do I know? You see in what a tavern I spend all my time, and it's my enjoyment. That's to say, it's no great enjoyment, but one must sit somewhere. That poor Katia now, you saw her. If only I had been a glutton now, a club gourmand, but you see I can eat this. He pointed to a little table in the corner where the remnants of a terrible-looking beefsteak and potatoes lay in a tin dish. Have you dined, by the way? I've had something and want nothing more. I don't drink, for instance, at all. Except for champagne, I never touch anything, and not more than a glass of that all evening. Even that is enough to make my head ache. Wow, Sverdlov. Wow. I already just now wound myself up, for I'm just going off somewhere, and you see me in a peculiar state of mind. That was why I hid myself just now like a schoolboy, for I was afraid you would hinder me. But I believe, he pulled out his watch, I could spend an hour with you. It's 4:30 now. If only I'd been something, a landowner, a father, a cavalry officer, a photographer, a journalist. I'm nothing, no specialty, and sometimes I am positively bored. Really thought you would tell me something new. Tell me something new. Great song, I haven't heard it in a while. Prism, I think, is the song great on that one. Yeah, it's not really a big deal. Sverdlov, like, I thought he was a landowner. I thought he was a tenant. But yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Spending all his time in a bar, maybe he's not. But what are you, and why have you come here? But am I, a gentleman? I served for 2 years in the cavalry, then I knocked about here in Petersburg, then I married Marfa Petrovna and lived in the country. There you have my biography. You're a gambler, I believe. No, a poor sort of gambler. A card sharper, not a gambler. You've been a card sharper then? Yes, I've been a card sharper too. Didn't you get thrashed sometimes? It did happen. Why? Why you might have challenged them. Altogether, it must have been lively. I won't contradict you, and besides, I'm no hand at philosophy. I confess that I hastened here for the sake of the women. As soon as you buried Marfa Petrovna. Quite so, Sverdlov smiled with engaging candor. What of it? You seem to find something wrong in my speaking like that about women. You ask whether I find anything wrong in vice. Vice, so that's what you're after. But I'll answer you in order. First about women in general. You know I'm fond of talking. We know. Tell me, what should I restrain myself for? Why should I give up women, since I have passion for them? It's an occupation, anyway. Not really. Yeah, not really. If it's an occupation, most men are employed then. Yeah, most men are employed if it's an occupation. So you hope for nothing here but vice. Oh, very well, for vice then. You insist on its being vice. But anyway, I like a direct question. In this vice, at least, there is something permanent. Founding indeed upon nature and not dependent on fantasy. Something present in the blood like an ever-burning ember. Forever setting one on fire, maybe. Not to be quickly extinguished, even with years. You'll agree it's an occupation of sort. No. Not really. Yeah, it's a job you do not get paid to do, if it is a job. Like on that note, it's not a job at all. It's just the way it is. It's just nature. It's nothing to rejoice at. It's a disease and a dangerous one. Well, that's what you think it is. I agree that it's a disease like everything that exceeds moderation. And of course, in this one must exceed moderation. But in the first place, everybody does so in one way or another. In the second place, of course, one ought to be moderate and prudent. however mean it may be, but what am I to do? If I hadn't this, I might have to shoot myself. I'm ready to admit that a decent man ought to put up with being bored. And yet, could you shoot yourself? Oh, come, Svrglov parried with disgust. Please don't speak of it, he added hurriedly, and with none of the bragging tone he had shown in all the previous conversation. His face quite changed. I admit it's an unpardonable weakness, but I can't help it. I'm afraid of death, and I dislike its being talked of. Do you know that I am to a certain extent a mystic? The apparitions of Marfa Petrovna, do they still go on visiting you? Oh, don't talk of them. There have been no more in Petersburg. Confound them, he cried with an air of irritation. Let's rather talk of that, though. I've not much time. Can't stay long with you. It's a pity. Should have found plenty to tell you. What's your engagement? A woman? Yes, a woman. A casual incident. No, that's not what I want to talk of. And the hideousness, the filthiness of all your surroundings, doesn't that affect you? Have you lost the strength to stop yourself? Do you pretend to strength too? You surprised me just now, Rodyon Romanovich, though I knew beforehand it would be so. You preached to me about vice and aesthetics. You, a Schiller, you, an idealist. Of course, that's all it should be, that it would be surprising if it were not so. Yet it is strange in reality. What a pity I have no time, for you're a most interesting type. By the way, are you fond of Schiller? I'm awfully fond of him. Yeah, it does seem ironic for Raskolnikov to be preaching to anyone about vice. like really, dude? Really? You're gonna get up on there on your soapbox and talk to people about chasing after women when you murdered 2 of them? Really? But anyway, what a braggart you are, Raskolnikov said with some disgust. Upon my word, I'm not, answered Svrglov, laughing. But I won't dispute it. Let me be a braggart. Why not brag, if it hurts no one? Spent 7 years in the country with Marfa Petrovna, so now when I come across an intelligent person like you, intelligent and highly interesting, I'm simply glad to talk. And besides, I've drunk that half glass of champagne and it's gone to my head a little. Besides, there's a certain fact that has wound me up tremendously, but about that, I will keep quiet. What are you off to? He asked. Where are you off to? He asked in alarm. Raskolnikov had begun getting up. He's like, okay, I'm just going to go. Felt oppressed and stifled, and as it were, ill at ease at having come here. Felt convinced that Svrglov was the most worthless scoundrel on the face of the earth. Sit down, stay a little, Svrglov begged. It's like that song in Dreamgirls, Jimmy Want Mo. Jimmy want a rib, Jimmy want a steak, Jimmy want a piece of old chocolate cake. That's Svrglov, alright. You can't just have one. You can't just have Marfa, okay? He's got to get more. Let them bring you some tea anyway. Stay a little. I won't talk nonsense about myself, I mean. I'll tell you something, if you like. I'll tell you how a woman tried to save me, as you would call it. It'll be an answer to your first question indeed, for the woman was your sister. May I tell you, it will help to spend the time. Tell me, but I trust that you... Oh, don't be uneasy. Besides, even in a worthless low fellow like me, Avdotya Romanovna can only excite the deepest respect. Alright, so we're going to have to read about it in chapter 4 next time. But, yeah, there you have it. Svrglov is making the moves in Petersburg. And we'll just have to see what happens. Raskolnikov and Peter Petrovich. Is Peter going to go to the cops? Who knows? Find out next time on Crime and Punishment. Thank you for watching.